Namaste. I welcome you all to today's very special Facebook Live session. A warm welcome again on behalf of Zydus Hospitals to each one of you. I'm Himanshu Sharma with a very special guest today. I would request you all to appreciate and welcome Dr. Yatin Desai, Head of the Department of Orthopedics and Trauma at Zydus Hospitals, Ahmedabad, who has joined us today for this session. This is a very different session that we planned. It has nothing to do with specifically medical sciences, but it will tell you much more than what our usual sessions do. So today's session is in the honor of the man who led by an example and walked the talk. Yes, it is the one and only Mahatma Gandhi. There may be instances when we feel that his relevance to the modern day is diminishing, but then rises the frail yet mighty figure of the man whose determination changed the face of not just independent India, but fate of many nations across the world. Self-reliance, grassroots connect, non-violence, peace protests, and the list goes on when we look at Mahatma Gandhi, when we connect the dots of his life together. Gandhiji was a mix of personalities, an utterly simple man driven by his own devotion towards non-violence. His connect to masses was so intense. Imagine non-existence of social media and still the man was able to reach out to every heart. So I'll now proceed, and we all would learn today from Dr. Yatin on his memories about the pre-independence times which he has seen, and what was the environment like, because he has been born, brought up in Gujarat. So he has also observed various sessions of Mahatma Gandhi closely. He's also going to share his views with us on the relevance of Gandhian philosophy to the current day healthcare. Before we start, a very brief introduction of Dr. Yatin. Obviously, I told you that he is the head of the department for our orthopedic surgery, but beyond that, he is a nature enthusiast, an adventure lover, a poet, a photographer. So we would love to listen from him, his stories about connect with the Mahatma. Sir, I welcome you personally to the session.
Yeah, good afternoon, Himanshu and all viewers. Firstly, I would like to correct a bit to your previous narration about me. I was born after independence, but I have heard so many things about Gandhiji from my grandparents who were very close to Gandhiji. In fact, my grandparents' home at Bajran in Khera district is one of the night stays of Mahatma Gandhi when he was doing Dandi Yatra. And my grandfather told me everything about that night. So maybe you are right, or you are wrong partially. But Gandhi is a Gandhi. I think he lives always with us. And he has tremendous strength of weaponaries which were non-violent in his armamentary to fight anything in the world. That would be enough introduction, I think, about Gandhiji.
Yeah, sir, I have a small list of questions, so it would be an easy conversation for both of us and for our viewers. And one more thing I would like to put across to everyone, the reason why we chose English as a language, initially me and Dr. Yatin both were discussing, probably we'll keep it in Hindi. But the reason why we did, because a lot of our friends who are based in Africa requested that this session should be in English so that it can reach more number of people, because Gandhi is not just an entity to India. He is a global entity accepted across. So that's the reason we chose English as a language. Sir, I would start with my first small question to you. In the present day scenario, I'm coming to, the food aspect and the food perspective of what Mahatma Gandhi has reiterated many a times, that in the current scenario, the food we consume is not for mere sustenance. We consume it to satisfy the palate. Now, being a medico and an avid adventurist, how can you relate to Mahatma Gandhi's theory that states that food should be consumed as a medicine?
Yeah, Gandhiji was very clear in his idea about the food. Firstly, he was saying that man was born as not a carnivorous entity. When he was born, rather on the first few days of the human life on the earth, he survived on the fruits and the vegetable. So he is right in a way that man essentially is not a carnivorous animal. And I can correlate his idea with the monkeys around us these times. In Ahmedabad, there are a lot many monkeys in our gardens. They are absolutely herbivores, right? They don't eat non-veg things. They are so agile and jumping from here and there. So the meat, that if you eat the meat and the proteins from the animals makes you more stronger, I think to some extent would be right, but it's not absolute must. And that was Gandhiji's idea, right? Our stomach is not just a dustbin of the pellets which orders different types of foods, say spicy and things. Pellet is a very sensitive organ and would crave for only every sort of sweet or even sour or whatever thing it is, but it is up to us to decide what goes in. Our stomach, as I said, is not just a bin to throw in everything. And especially in a different age class, from youngsters to the elderly, food do matter a lot. Gandhiji also emphasized the importance of fasting to break the cycle and give it rest to the intestinal or digestive system. We have seen so many people working all time, day and night, but then you crave for a holiday. Similar to sort of presentation may be said about the fasting, right? Your gut is working 24/7, 365 a day. You need to give it a break doing some fast. And I have been following that since last 50 years. Each month I would do a fast, right? And about this non-vegetarian things and vegetarian thing comparison, I have been to climbing to Mount Everest and other areas. The food supply during the trek of say 14 days or 12 days was just plain rice with dal. Dal is sort of protein-rich vegetarian diet, right? So that itself suggests that you may not need the protein from the meats and non-vegetarian things. That is very important. Also I would like to tell the people or listening the friends that the breakfast of Gandhiji just contained 2 teaspoons of wheat, rice, 2 oranges, 1 cocoa milk, and few fruits, right? So that was his normal breakfast. The important other thing is to make it absolutely disciplined. He used to take his breakfast around 6 o'clock, lunch around between 11 and 12, and the dinner at around 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, right? So you have to set a cycle which is disciplined cycle for your diet. Again, one important thing that human body is just a Kurukshetra of health and Dharmakshetra of your deeds or your work towards yourself. So you have to combine both the things and be a good person, a fighty person to look to your health. If you are not looking at your health, it's the same sort of thing. That's what Gandhiji believed. So these are all important ideas which are to be kept in mind. Again, about the milk, you may not take the proteins from the meat. Even the milk has good percentage of proteins, and there are advantages in the milk. The goat milk, especially, which he used to drink, had numerous important points, like it is having magnesium, which regulates the heart rhythm very well, or calcium, which reduces the appetite and also improves the bone density. The low saccharides used to be an anti-inflammatory agent for inflammatory bowel diseases. This sort of, his ideas were absolutely clear, and now we can realize that what they were for.
So the correlation to the modern day medicine somewhere or the other exists as far as what he preached at that point in time. Obviously, the medicine was not so developed. People were not so much aware, and many people even made fun of him that, you know, this frail guy is trying to teach us and he himself doesn't have a great health. So, you know, probably the relevance was probably somewhere lost, but yes, we can now reconnect to it well.
Now I think it is coming back. When you look at the Western world, they are turning into vegetarian diets, right? And the lack of vitamin which we face in Indian citizens or say even Americans. Gandhi used to wear minimum dress, right? He used to have one dhoti and one scarf sort of thing in the upper trunk, and he will move here and there. So naturally, he was getting probably the best of vitamin D from the sunlight. Right now, we all are suited. We are sitting in air conditioned cabins. In the cities also, it's difficult to get sunlight. Now we realize, especially as an orthopedic surgeon, I get so many patients. Almost 90 of 100 patients, when I get them tested for vitamin D3, is below level. So he had definitely some relevance, and that is coming back through ourselves also, to doctors also.
So that was a vital information, as you said, that vitamin D levels definitely they have a major impact. And that point in time, many people, when he would just move around in a dhoti, there would be people who would be making fun of him or even rebuked him for saying that the guy does not have a dressing sense. But possibly, the reason for him being like that, obviously simplicity was one aspect, but what you mentioned from the medicine thing, which many of us may not understand till we are told now, that vitamin D makes a huge amount of difference.
Yeah, and the other thing, he used to walk a lot, right? In his days, there were no gyms, no sports. So only walking was the best exercise. Now, of course, we have gyms now, we have all other sports, but those days he used to walk a lot, and that was the exercises for him. Nowadays, of course, we have got gyms, but now we are getting problems from the gyms. Every week, I get 2 or 3 youngsters who are having muscle and joints problems due to overdoing in the gym. So the walking still, I think, is the best exercise, and of course swimming and cycling also. But going to the gym, all right, it may improve your figures, etc., but it may harm you sometimes. That is again important.
So it's a great message for everyone from a great orthopedician that yes, you have to walk, and that's safer also. Plus, it'll help you as much as probably what your gymming is going to help you. Sir, I would now come to something which has been bothering us a lot, especially if you look at the context of what we have been undergoing in last 6-7 months. Mental health suddenly has become of importance. And whatever little I have read about Mahatma Gandhi, he stressed a lot on mental health. He related mental health directly to your physical well-being. He stressed on meditation. He also stressed on forgiveness, de-addiction. Anything that you would like to mention, inclusive of all these theories, what he has put across?
Of course, mental health is the prime thing. Right now, also, we see in Corona days, people are worried about the things, right? They don't go even for testing. If you have a good mental strength, then you are into it and you will be able to fight it well. Now, from where the mental strength comes? You have to have a good willpower. You have to have a liking for compassion and praise of all other in respect to your colleagues. How it will come again? You will have to have tolerance, right? If you are not happy, don't get angry. Just tolerate it for a few minutes and you should be all right. If you are accepting what you are, and if you don't have sense of positivity or possession also, that makes you very, very broad-minded. And that will help you in increasing your willpower to face any of the ill effects which are there in surroundings, even from our level to a farmer level. Everybody would have something which is not good for him, right? All are not God. They will have to face some difficulties. But if your mind is strong, if your willpower is strong, if your acceptance to the reality is good, if you think that your friends are your friends and they are not going to hurt you, that increases your vitality and willpower also. And that mental strength will help you fight any disease in a better position than if you are not a good willpower person. A patient who is of fragile willpower versus patient who has a good willpower will fight any disease, like our fractures. Patient who has good willpower straight on walks on the second day. But there are some patients who are very weak. We have to do them psychotherapy, and after that they don't walk. So willpower is a must. And how do you cultivate willpower? That I spoke, right? Acceptance, reality, happiness in everything which you have, no jealousy of others, and strong mind, right?
It's a very, very important message that you have conveyed to people, that acceptance is something which we all, in today's world, that is something which is largely lacking. Sir, another thing this is something which is more relevant to the environment we face in the hospitals. So it looks very unreal that a khadi-clad man toppled colonialism across the world in many parts. just with his personal practice of non-violence. Now, any advice, anything that you would like to share with our doctor fraternity, because you being a practitioner for such a long time, a veteran, there would be people who would be watching this. Any suggestions for your doctor friends, juniors, those who are budding doctors, that how can they fall in this place?
Yeah. We look at the media and the newspaper or even TV that you find every week one incidence of attack on doctors or doctor grumbling against the society that the tolerance of the society is going down. Right? We have faced so many things like that. But a great lesson from Gandhiji, as I just rightly described, acceptance. All are not your enemies, they are your friends. Similarly, in a hospital, what patient comes, patient tell, we used to be taught by our teacher that patient is always right. So don't get annoyed if patient talks something which you don't like. As I said, you accept that, take him as a friend. Customer is the main essence of the hospital services, right? For a doctor, he has to be tolerant. Whatever his patient, because patient is a patient, he is in agony. He may speak some bad words or may do some odd behavior. But generally, most of the times they are right and they don't do such things frequently. So my humble request to my fraternity is, of course, the fraternity is feeling that there are a lot many attacks on the doctors, lot many grievances against the doctors, but don't get disheartened from this. This is a phase which can easily go down, like now, today only, or even this corona episode, right? People have started understanding the importance of the healthcare workers so well that we have been seeing the videos on the TV, a small nurse going to her home after a week service is being prayed and blessed by all the relatives. So customer is the first, that is at our Zydus. We always believe that the patient is God sort of thing, right? Whatever he speaks, we have to believe in the patient and look for his best health with a smile. That would be my advice.
Very true, sir. And I think it's very important also that, as you said, that we have to be patient. We have to have patience. So listening is one very important aspect. As you said, that you have to listen to your patient. You have to understand what they are going through. And most of the time, patients would be right. There would be rare circumstances where a patient would not be correct, or they might be cooking up something which is not real. But still, we have to give them a fair chance, as Dr. Yatin very clearly mentioned. Well, friends, this was a minuscule attempt by Zydus Hospitals. Thanks to Dr. Yatin that he agreed for us to come up with something which is medically may not be very related, but very relevant to times now, as well as the times to come ahead, the way it was earlier. So we are just trying to relive the moments of what the teachings of the Mahatma have been. And we strongly believe and follow what Mahatma said. As Dr. Yatin also just mentioned, that a patient is the most important visitor to our premises. He is not dependent on us. We are dependent on him. He is not an interruption to our work. He is the purpose of it. And this is very important for all of us in any fraternity to understand, as it is in relation to your customers. So he is not an outsider for business. He is the purpose of business. He is a part of business. So a patient is basically the most important entity when it comes to the hospital, and we sincerely focus on that. So the patient basically gives us an opportunity to serve them. So we have to remember that, and it's a request to all the members of our medical fraternity to try and follow at least something of what Mahatma Gandhi has preached to all of us. With this, I would like to end this session. Thank you very much for being patient listeners. Thank you, Dr. Yatin, for joining us. Namaste.